Welcome back, friend. And if you are new here, I am so grateful that my information has found you. Today's conversation is walking through the uncertainty and knowing that you're fully supported in this process. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Leanne Wolf. I am a human design and BG5 business professional. I am an incessant researcher, I am a coach, I am a teacher, and I am a course creator. I help men and women all over the world just step into their own self-mastery so that they can absolutely walk through the pain of those old patterns and stand in the pleasure of their particular direction and be fully inspired to let go of the past and stand in the present. So with today's conversation, I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation with you, and we're going to walk through understanding the role of the mind and understanding why that uncertainty is so profound for us. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. And we will just start the slideshow. So again, I teach people self-mastery and I walk through their human designs so that they can be in self-mastery. I also have a program built all around this where I get to help you walk into self-awareness and self-actualization. So this is something that a quote that I found from Ra. Everybody is so interested in healing the mind. It's a joke. They're not there to be healed. They are there to be experienced. It doesn't matter what kind of trip your mind goes through. If it's not making your decisions, then it is just something that it does. It's what your mind does. When you take its decision-making power away, then you just get to see what your mental system is there to measure. And it begins to operate the way in which your mind was intended to operate, as a way of translating cognitively your experience of being on this plane. It isn't there to be the driver. It's not about figuring it out. It's not about figuring out what you have to do. Oh, and where you have to go. And all of that stuff. It just isn't. It's about seeing. Out of this seeing, your authority will move you. That's what you get. And because it's your authority that moves you, that seeing becomes an expression. It becomes an awareness. It becomes the outer authority that is there to be shared with others. Now, this is a direct quote from Ra. So what we are going to chat about today is this. The fifth line expression of all of the gates in the mind. And uncertainty lies within the Archana Center. The Archana Center wants to be able to conceptualize. That's its job. It wants to be able to concretize the visual stimulation and the frequency field, the matrix, if you'd like to call it that, the consciousness field, whatever your word is, for that connection to higher self. The Archana Center is the place that conceptualizes. So the head center is where we get inspiration. But when we use these two centers together, these two functions, they function as the mind. And two things, again, can happen here. You guys have heard me say this numerous times. One, there can be the conditioned mind that is trying so desperately to figure out life, is trying so desperately to make decisions that that are correct for it. Or number two, the decision making can be removed. The mind can then witness, and through that witnessing, it can become a beautiful decoder and then expressing the outer authority. So I wanted to walk through the fifth line because the fifth line is always the highest expression. In the 61, Jupiter has been here for a very long time, you guys. Or sorry, Pluto, sorry, and Jupiter's there right now as well. But Pluto has been in the 61 for a very long time. Truth and transformation. It's going to be there, up until 2021. So we have a whole year of this mental fuel, this mental pressure for us to drop into our inner truth. And when we look at inner truth and that influence of that inner truth, so the influence, the enlightened father figure whose recognized wisdom and powerful assertion can mold a generation by its influence. When we are in our inner truth, that enlightened father figure, how I translate, it's the consciousness field. The consciousness field whose recognized wisdom and powerful assertion can mold a generation by its influence. There is a program. I have done so many videos on that, so many videos walking you guys through what that program looks like. And it is here to support us. It is here to empower us. It's here to share the collective experience with us. But it can only happen if we are not cluttering up our decoder. It's not, if the RAM of your computer cannot process what it needs to process, then the output is gobbledygook. So that 61, that influence, you're able to empower yourself and then bring a universalized influence to those that need it when you're connected to your higher source. Now let's look at the 63, sorry. 63 is doubt. And doubt is always a part of the logical stream. So this is about sharing. This is about patterns. This is about theory. And that doubt, that affirmation, the authority and sincerity of purpose to pursue the same values in the new beginning that had allowed it to transcend the old. So there is going to be a new beginning. Every single time we test a pattern, it's a brand new beginning. However, the authority and sincerity of purpose to pursue the same values in the new beginning that allowed it to transcend the old. The values stay the same. We get to transcend the old patterns. And what are we transcending right now, you guys? We are transcending from the cross of planning to the cross of the sleeping phoenix. This energy of sleeping phoenix, this energy of penetration, and we were in the cross of planning and Maya. So it's really critical for us to see that each one of these 400-year cycles is like a building block for us. So whatever took place, even though, humanity, gave away the authority, we're now teaching, bring it back, because that is the new stepping stone we're going towards. 64 is confusion, promise. So the values promised in any new order are demonstrated through harmonic interactions with others. You know, we need each other to experience this life with. If it was just a clone of me all over the world, or a clone of you all over the world, there'd be no growth. We need to interact with something different so that this promise of that new order and that harmonic interaction with others can take place. Because we're having new experiences every day, all day long. And then when we look at the 47, so this is really where we begin to touch base on the anxiety, okay? Because the anxiety lies within the Archana Center, because the Archana Center wants to concretize. It wants to make sense. It wants to understand. It wants to come to a rationale. And if it can't do that, it will chew on something and keep you distracted, and the mind will be distracted thinking, and then you'll miss out on what you're supposed to see. So allow for the Archana Center to concretize and conceptualize in its own timing. There's no need to try to force it. Okay, so the realization, as the confusion takes place, every new experience brings us this confusion, but there's promise that each new experience is going to bring us this harmonizing. Okay, so the confusion drops into a realization. The 47, it kind of puts all these, pictures that it has seen of the experience, and it kind of puts it in order for us. And that realization, that fifth line, is the saint. So this position has special significance, and there is no planet in detriment. So the gift in times of oppression, this is important, you guys, to maintain without hypocrisy a harmonic relationship with one's oppressors, while providing aid and succor, I don't know how to say that, succor, to the oppressed. So isn't this interesting? The 64 talks about a new world order, a new order. And the 47 talks about the saint and being able to, maintain a relationship, a harmonic relationship with one's oppressors. Because basically, no matter what happens on this planet, even if your physical body is incarcerated, if it is in jail or, locked up in a room, whatever it is, you still have freedom because you are a soul. So realization at its most exalted, acceptance of the weight of the abstract process and the grace that naturally follows. We all need to walk through experiences, and we will concretize and make sense of those experiences in the correct timing. Even if there's resistance there, when we can just understand and watch the interaction, is totally different than trying to figure out the interaction. The realization will come in once the experience has come to a close. The 24 is this rationalizing. So we've come from the inner truth, and that inner truth, that inner truth is all about that connection to source, that ability to know that life is a mystery, and that the rationalizing, this interpretation, this interpreting, this describing or explaining will happen again in its own timing. And the confession piece here is that the courage to admit the mistakes of the past, the practical value of starting with a clean slate. So whether or not today, there is any kind of rationalization, tomorrow there's a it doesn't matter. We can clean off the slate every time. Basically, this is tying in that whole trial and error process into this fifth line. By knowing that, mistakes have been made in the past. And it's all good. This confession of the inner truth. Because my truth today definitely, like 150%, actually doesn't look like my truth from last week even. In today's unprecedented times and how quickly information processes through us, I'll confess what I did last week. I made some mistakes. But here I am right now, coming to that rationalization and interpreting the matrix field differently this week. And it's okay. My mind wants to lose it. My mind wants to freak out and think, all these people in the world that are locked up in their homes, I have this sense of anxiety for them through the collective, picking that up in the collective, walking through that uncertainty. What is this going to look like when we all come to a confession? What is this going to look like? It's going to be very interesting. So the 4, again, there's lots of decoding that can happen when you go through the Ravai chain. But the 4 is formalization. It's like answers. And it's seduction. So the fifth line, the highest expression of this is actually seduction, allowing others to assume responsibility as a shield against potential punishment. Unearned reward and recognition, the potential to succeed through the understanding of others. There is a seduction to the collective answers, to the collective logical patterns and data. There's a seduction there. So isn't that interesting? However, here's also what else I want to share with you about the 4th gate. The 4th gate, and the 4th line is called the liar. So this role playing as an art form, the actor. So it influences us. The fourth line always is about influence, but it's a liar, and those lies can be very seductive. Because again, theory 99.9% of the time cannot stand in its truth. It cannot be truthful. It cannot be true for everyone because we have 8 billion different experiences happening on this planet. And those 8 different billion experiences, it brings this lie to the theory. Because one pharmaceutical drug may work for one person, and the next person, it might hospitalize them. And almost, they could lose their lives over it. Because there's 8 billion different, DNA codes in this planet, in the people. But it's very seductive to get pulled into those answers and that formula instead of connecting to our own higher truth and listening to the influence that is there from our connection, and then allowing for that rationalizing to happen so that we can confess our own truth versus being seduced into the answers and formulas of others? That's really important to grasp here. And what is the Archana Center? The Archana Center wants to grab on. It wants to grab on to those answers and believe them to be truthful, but they may not be truthful for you. So it can cause a lot of anxiety. And it's about just seeing that everybody's perspective has merit in their own truth. But your truth needs to be from the connection that you have with your higher source, with the consciousness field, with the evolutionary program, with the evolutionary instructions, whatever you want to call it. So now we're going to go to the 17. And the 17 is this opinions, right? So no human is an island. Well, I can't have opinions about different theories had I not, seen different aspects of it. So no human is an island. So no different than that fourth line that seduces us, into the answers, but yet the opinions are no human is an island. There is no one opinion that is correct, because we are in this together. So the recognition, however, understood that there is no end to hierarchies, the ultimate creative expression of interdependency, whether as God's will or global synthesis. Opinions that can express the value of being organized, whether mundane or spiritual. We need each other. We need each other so that we can interact and test those theories, test those opinions. Okay, so now we are going to go to the 43. And the 43 is this breakthrough. So when we see the 61 and we watch how the individuality runs straight down, and in the middle, it's all in between those collective streams, and it's in between those collective and tribal streams. The individual is the core of all of this. The individuality is the stream that, is so powerful for us. So this insight, progression, and step-by-step adaptation to relationships which hinder breakthrough, practical actions which will not jeopardize eventual success. So let me read that again. The step-by-step adaptation to relationships which hinder breakthrough through practical actions which will not jeopardize eventual success. The gift of knowing when a unique insight can be shared effectively with others. Your insights are actually your progression into your truth and into your rationalizing, so that you get to confess. And then those insights can then be shared with others, but they're there first for you to empower you. And there's so much anxiety around this about being, rejected, about being rejected for your own breakthroughs. Well, they're yours. And I want you to also recognize that between the head center and the Ajna center and the throat, these are all projected channels. So those projected channels require invitation and recognition. Somebody has to recognize you for the brilliance that you bring and that outer authority that you bring, and they can ask you for it so that you then get to share it with them or express it so that they become empowered as you become empowered. And your insights, your breakthroughs may or may not help them. But you will know when to express that because they recognize it and they're inviting it out from you. So now let's look at the 11. The philanthropist, the motiveless nurturing of the disenfranchised to ensure harmony, philosophic and humanitarian ideas. So the highest expression of ideas is actually for other people. And I have said this numerous times, Ra said this, most of the teachers in human design that have actually done any kind of decoding in this book recognize that ideas are not here to be manifested. They're actually here to be shared for the other person. They're here to be expressed for the other person, because the head center and the Archana Center, what happens up here, there is no motor. And manifestation happens from the physical body and then up to the throat center. And that physical body that's connected with a motor. So if you don't have your throat connected to your motor or to a motor, you're here to co-create and collaborate so that those manifestations can happen as, you know, you are one-on-one with people or you're in a group situation, those kind of things. And I'm not saying you can't manifest on your own. That's not what I'm saying. But if we're using this and we're overthinking the shit out of everything, then unfortunately, what is being manifest is not being picked up by the fractal, because they didn't ask for it. They didn't require it. They didn't invite it. So when we take a look at these two functions together, the inspiration and the conceptualization, it is critical to understand that the mind is not here to think and think and think and think and think and keep you on a hamster wheel. The mind is here to decode your experiences, and then you get to witness that decoding. But what will happen here is that the uncertainty becomes very mentally defensive, and then we act out of our shadow versus being the decoder, stop overthinking, and then allowing for that wisdom and that knowledge to be expressed out as an outer authority. So if you are, you know, stepping in to your experiment, or you have, you know, been in your experiment for a while, just watch how the mind is functioning for you, okay? Just watch how the mind is functioning. If it's trying to figure things out, if that uncertainty has got it tied up in knots, if the anxiety is palpable, just take a moment and breathe. As I had indicated in the one video that I did here about the solar plex, the sixth gate is that diaphragm that allows for that arbitration of body, mind, and spirit. It's the arbitrator of the awareness. So just take a breath, remind yourself of your strategy, remind yourself of your inner authority, and relax into that process, because we are all in this together. There isn't one human being, there's no meat suit, there's no bubble of biology that has been in the energy that we are going to walk into in 2027. So there is mass confusion as to what should I believe, what shouldn't I believe. There's rabbit holes of all kinds of information. And remember, the theories of other people can be very seductive. In order for you to be the philanthropist, it's about you coming to your own breakthrough. In order for you to be that philanthropist for humanity and harmonizing the relationships, it's about coming to that own rationalizing, that own decoding of your experience and what your connection is with higher self. That your truth is not everybody else's truth. So if you are guiding people through this, keep asking them questions to get them to drop into themselves. Our manifestors, provide them with statements so that they can grab their own inner truth out of that collective field, out of that matrix, out of that evolutionary consciousness. And for the other three types, continue to ask those questions so that they can go in. Because the formulas that are presented on the outside are collective formulas, and they can be very seductive and are based in lies. So play with this information. If you haven't already, grab this book, play around. If you want to work with me, below is the Work with Leanne page. I do, one-on-one sessions. I do coaching packages, and I also have my self-mastery movement program that will be up and running on May 1st, where we get to come together as a community and really stand in this truth that has been asked of us through the program, through the evolution, so that when the next 7 years, I feel, are going to be very, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be so much uncertainty and unrest that the mental plane is going to get very, very thick with anxiety. And I would love it if those of you that are here, you can hear the message, that you can, step into your own self-mastery and then guide others as they request that from you into the future. Nobody's been there. We're all in this together. We're all sitting in this uncertainty. In the meantime, please go forth and use your God code to influence others into their own self-mastery. Have a great day, guys.